Welcome to Revelation Unraveled. I am your host, William Tapley, also known as the third eagle of the apocalypse and the co-prophet of these end times. Today is Monday, October the 5th. And yesterday, Pope Francis opened the Synod of Bishops on the family in Rome. And I believe this will be of tremendous significance in the fulfillment of end times Bible prophecy. And the two controversial issues which they will be discussing is acceptance of homosexuality and the taking away of the daily sacrifice from the prince. Now, they don't call it that. They call it giving Holy Communion to divorced and remarried Catholics. And you will not find the truth about this synod, certainly in the mainstream media, but not even in Catholic media. For example, EWTN. Don't waste your time watching that television program. And even here on YouTube, Michael Voris on the Vortex, who I watch regularly, does not understand the relative significance of these two issues. Let's take a listen to what he says.
The number one issue in the church these days is the unfaithful pro-gay priests and bishops who have let the church be overrun and her teachings be presented in a massively distorted way. The grand prize for these heterodox clergy is not Holy Communion for the divorced and civilly remarried. It is church recognition of sodomy as a good. One last point. Early Saturday morning, as preparations for the synod were wrapping up, an eerie fog slowly moved in from the north, enveloping the Vatican and the famous dome of St. Peter's Basilica, presenting a look of encircling gloom and blotting out the sun's rays until late morning. Let us all pray very intensely that this is not a sign.
Well, I think it is a sign, Michael. A sign that the church is in a fog. Or, as St. John says in the book of Revelation, the holy city, which is Rome in these end times, is being trampled underfoot by the Gentiles. And I'm surprised at you, but I think the mainstream media actually understands this better than you do. Certainly better than the Catholic media does. And now here is what Pope Francis said. And now this was a couple of weeks ago. I did a program on this. And now this headline is from U.S. News. Divorced Catholics who remarry deserve better treatment from the church, as do their kids. He is softening up this synod to allow Holy Communion for the divorced and remarried, which will fulfill Bible prophecy. Here's another headline from Bloomberg Business. Pope Francis says remarried divorced Catholics still in church. Well, yes, they are still in church, but they cannot receive Holy Communion because, as St. Paul says, anyone who receives the body and the blood of our Lord unworthily is guilty of the body and blood of our Lord. And if the church okays this, the church is guilty of the body and blood of our Lord. It will become an apostate church. And that is when, as Jesus says in the Olivet Discourse, that we must flee the field. Now, this story is from CBS, and this is datelined this morning at the opening of the Synod, and the dateline is Vatican City. Pope Francis opened a divisive meeting of the world's bishops on family issues Sunday by forcefully asserting that marriage is an indissoluble bond between man and woman. No problem there. I agree 100% with that. That answers both those who support gay marriage and those who say give communion to divorced and remarried Catholics. But notice the Pope does not stop there. That's because he wants to be popular. He always gives both sides of an issue, a typical characteristic of the false prophet. And he continues, but he said the church doesn't judge and must seek out and care for hurting couples with the balm of acceptance and mercy. This is the buzzword they are going to use to justify giving communion to people living in mortal sin. They will say it's out of mercy, and in fact, it will degrade Holy Communion. It will make it invalid, which is what Satan wants. And now here this article continues. One of the major debates at the Synod is whether divorced and civilly remarried Catholics can receive communion. There's nothing in that article about gay marriage. They understand, first and foremost, that Satan's goal, and therefore the goal of the mainstream media, is to degrade Holy Communion, to make it invalid. By the way, Catholics understand that their communion is different than communion in Protestant churches. They understand that it is the real body and blood of our Lord. Anyone who goes to a Protestant service understands that they are not receiving the body and blood of our Lord. In fact, that's why Satanists do not steal hosts from Protestant churches. They only steal them from Catholic churches because they want to desecrate our Lord's body and blood. And now here's another article from this morning. This is the Daily Mail. The deadline is Monday, October 5th. Pope's plea for tolerance of divorcees. Notice the headline is not about gay marriage. Not that that isn't important for the mainstream media, but this is even more important. Francis says church must not be a roadblock for people who rebuild their lives after a failed marriage. Well, that's good. I don't think the church should be a roadblock. Is he saying that's what the church is under Pope Benedict, a roadblock? Pope Francis, be careful what you are saying. Even here, you are denigrating the church of 2,000 centuries, which taught what St. Paul taught. And he continues, the headlines continue. Pope Francis made plea for a more liberal attitude to divorce in Rome, has been trying to ease the plight of divorced and remarried Catholics. They are currently barred from receiving communion. This is one of their main headlines, not the gay marriage. And treated as second-class citizens by their priests. Now, I'm going to try to give regular updates on this synod because it is extremely important. I believe we will see the prophecies of Daniel and our Lord in the Olivet Discourse fulfilled at this conference. I know for many years I assumed that it would be easy to understand how the daily sacrifice would be taken away from the prince, the Antichrist would take over the church and simply bar communion. But he is much more subtle than that. As Jesus said, even the elect could be led astray. And I find this in my own family, in my own parish. People who I know are good practicing Catholics. They can't understand how giving communion to divorced and remarried Catholics would invalidate the Eucharist. They agree that this would be merciful. Now Uncle George and Aunt Tilly can go to communion. And I'm telling you, this will be a huge error. And many people will not understand until after it has occurred. And they will know in their hearts that the host they are receiving is not the body and the blood of our Lord. And Jesus said, that is when you see the abomination of desolation, that is when you must flee the green field. And the field in the Olivet Discourse refers to the Roman Catholic Church. The Holy Church is being trod under by the Gentiles, as John prophesied in Revelation chapter 11, verse number 2. And if you would like more information about my ministry, please visit my ThirdEagleMedia.com website.